I wouldn't have you down as the type to be watching the first day at Wimbledon, Beswick.
It's in the paper.
Right.
You don't think I watched the... Don't you have me right. I wouldn't watch that rubbish if there was money in it.
Beswick,
There's a picture of it in the papers. It's in a bloody map.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather, with Diane Oxbury.
Well, we've probably seen the best of the weather already this morning, because as you head through the next couple of hours, more cloud starts to come in from the Irish Sea. It's not a dreadful day. I just think through the afternoon the cloud could be thick enough for some spots of drizzly rain here and there. Temperatures aren't bad though. We'll go for a high of 19 Celsius.
Allan Beswick, with you on the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I'm trying to find it now. I don't know what paper it was in. Good old Venus. She should have wore blue jeans. We could have done the song. Venus, simply... Oh, forget it. Mind you, if I played it once, I'll have to play it 20 times, won't I? Where are we with this Mac? It's in one of them. I saw it. It must be true. There she is. Oh, you see? They've even done the joke. I've seen it in the mail. It's in others, but I've just found it in the... Oh, and there's a picture of Amanda Holden scratching a bum. But sun shines on SW19. That's London talk for Wimbledon. Yeah. Sun shines on SW19, but Serena brings out a raincoat just in case. And she's playing. She's got a racket on, and she's got a raincoat. And you see, it's because she's sponsored by a certain sportswear company, and of course they've done all the knickers and the bras and the headbands. They've done headbands and even cardigans, for God's sake, and they've nothing else to catch the eye now. There'll be somebody, you mark my word, remember, you heard it first on BBC Radio Manchester on Midsummer's Day 2008. Next year, Venus Williams will appear at Wimbledon wearing a diving suit. You know, with the big feet. And the Bleacher beacon on her head with a tube coming out and a bloke at the back pumping like buggery. I'm telling you, that's what she's going to be in next year. Sponsored by, well, the sportswear company. They're getting no promotion off me. Now, it can be bought, if you're listening, if you are a sportswear company and you think, well, if we can't get any adverts on Radio Manchester, we'll give him a couple of 100,000, that should do it. Yeah, we could sort something, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I'm not mentioning you. But I have mentioned that... I should have looked, you see. Because I really don't know which is which, but then it was Serena, it wasn't Venus. It was Serena. Serena in blue jeans. No, it doesn't work, you're right.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and
Certainly better
Diane
than this.
Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
Our wedding vows have changed over the years.
Okay.
To honour and obey, to love and to cherish.
I don't know whether I did say I would obey, or if I did, I didn't mean it.
You had your fingers crossed.
Yes.
Under the bouquet of flowers.
I think at that time I was a little bit more radical in my viewpoints, and I probably said I wouldn't.
Eamon and Diane and you.
Charlie Sheen and Brooke Miller. The groom kicked off with promises to organise less and listen more, to mute the ball game when Brooke says this is a matter of life and death. The bride followed. Brooke, I promised to cook more meals outside of the microwave.
Brooke, do not set a standard to which you will never aspire.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
I don't know who she is, but I know who he is.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Don't worry, Diane. They all know who you are. It's getting on for 12:10 on BBC Radio Manchester. Telephone number, if you want to join us, is 0161 228 2255. The email address is radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk, and the text number is 07786 206 951. And I've forgotten, I ought to take notes really, but I've forgotten which newspaper it was in, but there's a bloke today who's a bus and tram spotter. I mean, frankly, they're not hard to spot, are they? You know, you just stand at the side of the main road and you'll see a bus, frankly. And the trams, well, that's a bit harder because they're not all over the place. But Blackpool, Liverpool aren't having them. Tss, we spit on your tram application. Sheffield have got them but the crap. We've got them but the belting. And then they've got some in Newcastle. They got the first tranche of new trams, you know, like a tranche of trams, just means some of them. A tranche, it's just some. Anyway, so he could go there. But he's give it up, because when he turns up with his little flask under his arm, and his camera, and his list of tram numbers and stuff, people think he's a paedophile. That's awful, isn't it? You know, I mean, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination advocating such a boring pastime as collecting tram or bus numbers. They're just like the tarmac equivalent of train spotters. But when he turns up with his little camera and all his gubbins, they think he's a paedophile, or worse still, in some places, a terrorist. I know. And it got to me thinking about strange hobbies, things that are really balmy. And there's loads of them. And we've all got them, I suppose. I mean, going to watch rugby, there are many, many ways you can find fault with that, particularly at the moment if you're a Warrington fan. But whatever your sport, whatever your pastime, everybody else thinks it's balmy. And it's in that vein that I noticed that today is the anniversary of the formation of the English Freemasons. It was a while ago, so you needn't worry. It was 1717. The Grand Lodge of English Freemasons was formed in London. And they do that, which is why I started with that hello, hello, because that, as I say, that is the audible handshake, because you can't really do a handshake. Well, you can do it, but it doesn't have a lot of strength or merit on the radio. But somebody tried to demonstrate the Freemason. He'd been a Freemason. I suppose it's a bit like once a Freemason, always a Freemason. I don't know, but he'd been one. And he tried to demonstrate the Freemason handshake. Well, I gotta tell you, he felt like a fondler. He did. And you get him something. You know, when you meet people, I meet a lot of people in this job. I meet them on your behalf, so you ought to be grateful, because some of them are right dunderheads. But I meet an awful lot of people in this job, and it's de rigueur, isn't it? It's the courtesy. I hate it myself. I don't like shaking hands. I think it's horrible. Well, for a start, you don't know where they've been. Anyway, so you shake hands with them, and you have all that competition going on about, is it a firm handshake? Is it limp? And all the rest of it. I can't be doing with it. Just say hello and let's forget it. But if you shake hands with a Mason, it's as if you've had an accidental handshake. Do you know what I mean? You've not clasped one's hand properly, or you've not quite got it right. Your hands have not met properly, and so it's a bit clumsy. And that's all you think. And eventually you work out that he was a Freemason. It's like Boy Scouts shaking with the left hand. Yeah. So they shake in a funny way when they shake hands. They try pressing the knuckles on your hand, because apparently different knuckles mean that you're different ranks. Oh yeah, ranking is very important in the Freemasons. Yeah. The first thing you have to establish is how big a ranker you are if you want to be a Freemason. I mean, they're not all the same. There are ranks. Yeah, there's like the High Priestess or whatever they call. So you do have to work out what level of ranker you are. What? No, ranker. Anyway, no, not anger. That's an entirely different matter. Anyway, so that's how they do it. And I'm just telling you, I mean, they used to be quite, well, I don't know whether they did, but they used to have a reputation of being a bit underhanded, which is funny when you consider that they have their own private handshake, but they are a bit dubious. And there have been books written about them. But I just think they're like women's institutes and stuff. You know, they're just silly if you're not a member. I mean, I'm not going to go at the Women's Institute. I quite like Women's Institutes, if only for the lemon drizzle cake. But they're all right, and I've been to loads of them doing talks and stuff. But it's just that. They're just private little clubs where people meet and have a chat. And on this occasion, in the Masons, they just roll the trouser leg up, reveal their chest to all and sundry, and swear allegiance to the great architect in the sky. I know. It's not fair to laugh. It's only a hobby when all's said and done. But of the two, I think the bloke photographing buses gets my vote. But they do some charity work and all that, so let's not knock them. They're like the Round Table and the other lot, you know, the Buffaloes. The antediluvian order of buffaloes. Anyway, happy birthday to all the Masons. I'd shake your hand, but it always feels wobbly.
Allan Beswick, BBC Radio Manchester.
There's a trial been underway for some time now at the Old Bailey. And it's described, you know how the news like to put a price on anything, but it is important. I know what they said of Thatcher. They said she knows the price of everything and the value of nothing, which is fair enough. But a £6 million murder trial is how it's described. A £6 million murder trial was halted at the Old Bailey today, following a law lord's ruling on witnesses giving evidence anonymously. The murder trial of two men accused of shooting East London businessman Charles Butler was stopped after lawyers considered last week's ruling. Now, let me tell you what the ruling was. The law lords, in allowing an appeal in another murder case, not this one, but another one, ruled that defendants have the right to know who's giving evidence against them. Now, that's a massively significant decision. You might think, well, who cares? But it is. It's huge. Let me tell you why it's huge. I'm sorry if I'm patronising you. I don't mean to. But it is, because you would ride past that on the bus and not spot the significance of it. The Old Bailey case is the first casualty of the ruling. But dozens of cases around the country are being affected. The police, the Crown Prosecution Service and defence teams, to be fair, are studying the ruling and reviewing cases. Now, I'll carry on. Stop me if you're bored, please. The trial, which was nearing the end of the prosecution case, was a culmination of a multi-million-pound 4-year inquiry into the shooting and indeed into alleged police corruption. 4 witnesses had given evidence under false names and behind screens. And the prosecutor said a retrial was expected to be held next year after the ramifications of the ruling had, if you like, ended. Now this begs a question, a serious question, and it is this. If you're going to ask witnesses, and we have as a society, we as individual members of our collection, our collective, our society, we have a responsibility to bear witness against those who do harm to others. We do, we have that responsibility. And for most of us, it's just interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's just interesting. But for those who are involved, it's rather more interesting. For example, if you were to give... just imagine the Cray twins were still alive and were still up to their evil. You would not readily give evidence against them. And if you will not readily give evidence against them, you can be intimidated very, very easily by such people. You don't give your evidence, then they don't get locked up and they carry on doing their horrendous crimes. Now, we have people, you could name some of the families, but we have people in Manchester who, frankly, are evil, nasty mob families, as you might describe them, a sort of Manchester mafia families. You don't need me to name them. You've got the names as much as I have. But no one will give evidence against them. I mean, it so happens that some of them are in jail because there are brave people around. But one of the things that has been done in witness protection is that people have been allowed to give evidence to courts anonymously. They've been allowed to say, this is what happened, and I'm not telling you who I am. If we remove that, and this law lord's ruling may well have done precisely that, if we remove that, very, very nasty people could stay on the street and carry on with their nasty endeavour. But there is the justice seen to be done. A person surely has the right to know who is his accuser. it's a bind. It's a difficult one. I'd be interested to know your thoughts, because I'm stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea here. Which is it? Are we to defend the right of an individual, an accused individual, to know who the person is giving witness against him? Or are we to protect individuals who we require to give evidence, protect them from the repercussions of that evidence, if there be any? You tell me, do you think witnesses in serious crimes of violence should be entitled to give their evidence anonymously, under an assumed name and from behind a screen? So they are there, but they're not on show. What do you think? The Court of Appeal seems to think that's not really acceptable. I'd be interested to know your view. 0161 228 2255. Mike takes the biscuit in a text. The bus... Remember the bus spotter who stopped doing it because people thought he was a paedophile? Mike says the bus... It is good. I'm sorry, the bus spotter will have to sign the Dex Offenders Register.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline news.
A fire in Bolton, which has killed a 71-year-old woman and badly injured a firefighter, is being investigated by the police and the fire service. Police want your help to catch arsonists who've been setting fire to property belonging to the probation service in Wigan. And the number of new mortgages approved in May was down by more than 56% on the same period last year. Manchester's weather largely cloudy, outbreaks of rain, highs of 19 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
If you're using the trains, be aware delays up to 40 minutes are now being reported on Northern Rail services between Manchester Piccadilly and Marple because a road vehicle's hit a bridge in the Romilly area. Train services on all routes through the Romilly area are subject to alterations, cancellations and delays of up to 40 minutes. Unfortunately, National Rail are currently unable to advise as to when normal service is expected to resume. And of course, that's having implications for road travellers as well. Stockport Road, that's closed off because of an overturned lorry between Beach Lane and George Lane at the junction with Berrycroft Lane. Again, that lorry is overturned just outside Romilly Station. Now, if you're using the motorways, it's slowing down on the 67 heading westbound between Junction 2 Kingston and Junction 24 Denton Island. So again, do watch out for delays. The inside lane of the 3 is closed off heading towards Manchester. Don't forget, of course, if you would like to update us on something that you spotted on the roads, call in, make sure it's hands-free before you dial, and the number you need is 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
You're never more than 20 minutes away from the latest traffic through the day.
BBC Radio Manchester.
You may have heard me mention and explain why Venus Williams has appeared at Wimbledon wearing a wearing a raincoat, and I extrapolated from that perhaps next year, in order to get the publicity, the only thing she can do is to appear in a diving suit, one of those with the big feet and covered in rubber, and wearing a Belisha beacon on her head. And then, as I said, somebody pumping air into her from behind. And Brian says, Alan, I'm intrigued by the picture you painted of Venus Williams appearing at Wimbledon next year with a man pumping her from behind. Are the tickets on sale yet?
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
You're not helping, Mike. The job's hard enough, mate. Deary me. Ted in Moston, there are some who believe the Freemasons are protecting the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. Personally, I don't, but it's always possible, partly because one of the main requirements for being a Freemason is having a faith in God. Well, no, that's not true, Ted. That's not true. Indeed, there have been interesting discourse. As I say, as a member of the Freemasons, now, OK, it's a society with secrets, so that puts me in a difficulty, because I'm not a member and never have been. I know people who have, but they are sworn to secrecy about the rituals. I know we get tongue-tied if we start saying they're a secret society. They prefer, and to be fair to them, they're entitled to declare themselves how they wish, but they prefer to be known as a society with secrets. But one of the secrets is that they swear allegiance to the great architect in the sky. Now, if you engage with them in a discussion about who is the great architect in the sky, they don't say that that is a simile, just another name for God. They don't say that the great architect in the sky, well, that's what we call God. Rather like, if you will, rather like Muslim people call God Allah. It's the same God, if you believe all that. It's the same structure. But no, they don't claim that. They don't say, yeah, it's just what we call God, you'll be all right with that. Indeed. So, no, I don't think you're correct in that. They may well be protecting the Ark of the Covenant, some other fictional icon, but no. Peter says, it's immoral that children should be working in the conditions shown last night on Panorama and for such low wages. We in the West should get these practices stopped. Yes, I do know that improving conditions and increasing wages to what we consider to be acceptable would result in the closure of those workshops and the unemployment of all those employed there. I feel sure that those people with no jobs and no money to buy food would be so grateful to us for saving them from the clutches of the greedy, grasping capitalists that exploited them. Those of us with such high moral values will get a great deal of satisfaction for what we've achieved, and will be thankful that we will not have our sensitivities offended again by having to watch these images. It's a dilemma. You're correct, Peter. It is very definitely a dilemma. Are we to say, then we will not have these, what you might call Indian subcontinent sweatshops? I know it's not just India, but Indian subcontinent sweatshops producing our goods so that we can buy a handmade suit in Britain for less than 50 quid. So there you are, you got a nice handmade suit, less than 50 quid. But it's done by a 9-year-old in a sweatshop in India or in the Far East. And you think, well, that is vile, but as Peter points out, yes, it's vile, but if you take the work away from that 9-year-old in the sweatshops of India or the Far East, what is he left with? He's possibly working to feed his whole family. If you take away the breadwinner, he might only be 9, but if you take away the breadwinner, with what are you left? Answer: starvation. So is it better that we buy cheap products from elsewhere, or is it that you pay expense for goods, high price for goods? I don't know the answer to that. It's a mystery. Alex in Bury. Hiya, Alex.
Afternoon, Alan.
Afternoon. What have you got?
The law lords ruling on anonymous witness evidence in court trials.
Yes.
Like you, I'm concerned, and I think it will have ramifications for other cases where this has been used. But I'm not exactly sure on the legislation. But I want to give you a parallel example, and if you could tell me what the difference is. In terrorism cases and other sensitive legal cases, MI5 and MI6 operatives often give evidence anonymously, and sometimes, these court cases are held in public, not necessarily in camera, but they also give anonymous evidence. So what's the difference there?
I don't know that there is any. We will have to see what it is that the law lords hands down. The giving of evidence anonymously began with terrorist evidence. It was actually, if I remember correctly, there may have been cases before, but the ones we know best are the ones that began prosecuting terrorists in what we might call the Northern Ireland dispute, if I may. And they said that some of the soldiers and MI5, MI6 operatives there were allowed to give their evidence anonymously from behind screens and the like. And it was said that at that time that this is an unusual state of affairs, but it's being brought about to protect the secrecy that is essential to investigations of this. Now, that most people most people, I don't know your view at the time, Alex, but most people thought that was acceptable. But it's always the case, isn't it, that when you push something towards the cliff edge, once it's crossed the brink, then the next step is not that hard, because then they started saying, well, hang on a minute, we've protected the secrecy, if you like, we've protected state security with that, well, let's try it, you know, because we can't get this crooked drug dealer, we can't get him, let's allow the witnesses against him to give evidence anonymously. And a few prosecutions successfully have been brought about at the courts, and people are serving time for very serious crimes that witnesses have operated in that way. And now the law lords have said, hang on a minute, we've got to rethink this.
Well, as I said, I see the two examples that I've given as being, you know, parallel, you know, similar in terms of the value of witnesses having to give, you know, their evidence anonymously. I mean, obviously, in the case of MI5, MI6, and other spies or double agents, whatever you want to call them, I think you know, it's logical and sensible that remains the case. And as far as I'm aware, those judgments have been and sentences have been sound. You know, they may well have been subject to challenge by the defence, but as far as I'm aware, those cases have been upheld. So, and witness intimidation is very real, you know, and I think anything that can give witnesses and victims of crime protection in the courts to bring about, you know, successful judgments and prosecutions is all the better. But I'm not sure. I'm not studied it, to be honest, but I'm not sure how. I'm not sure where we go from here. If it is successfully overturned and these cases are now considered unsound and unsafe, what happens next? I mean,
well, I can tell you what would immediately happen if it was declared. Now, we only got the decision today in this, to all intents and purposes, and it is a case that is currently before the courts, where the judge has said, with the ruling just received in a separate case, this present case is now tarnished, and they've stopped the case. I think it's discharged the jury, and they will start again at some time in the non-too-distant future. Possibly. It depends on whether they can get the witnesses to bear witness. So that's that. But obviously there are cases where people are serving time at the moment, as you rightly point to, Alex, for crimes that they were convicted of on the basis of anonymous witnesses. And what I mean, we'll get the full details of it in about a week's trial, but what the law lords seemed to say was that it's an appeal in another murder case. The law lords have ruled that the defendants have the right to know who is giving evidence against them, and later in the ruling it says, and also to confront that evidence and the witness bearing that evidence in the courts. Now, those cases that have already gone through, and one of them is the one that's being appealed already, they're going to appeal, aren't they? Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not blaming the defendant or the defence team for appealing, because that is their right, and you know, that's our system of justice in this country, and quite rightly so. But I do understand, you know, having worked, you know, in the criminal justice system myself, how difficult it can be, even for minor crimes. I'm not talking about, you know, drug dealing and murders and so on, but even for minor petty offences, to get anybody to come forward for fear of recrimination and reprisal.
When local authorities turn out to complaints about an individual or a family or a small group of individuals, and they say, well, what you need here is an ASBO, so what we're going to do is we're going to get you to fill in a diary, and there are people that say, no, thank you, no, going nowhere near that, you're not having my name. Do you know what I mean? So you're absolutely right, Alex. Thank you very much. 01612282255. The law lords have ruled today that witnesses at court, I'll reframe it into the way that the law lords have actually framed it. Defendants in court have the right to know who is presenting evidence against them, and to challenge that evidence and the person giving that evidence in court. That's been a basic principle of British justice for donkey's years, but recently there have been a spate of cases where people have been allowed to give witness against the accused anonymously and from behind screens. Steve in Warrington suggests that witnesses could change their name before a trial then change it back afterwards. Well, yes, that might do it, but of course what that wouldn't do would overcome the need for the witness to stand there in open court giving his or her evidence. So the accused, who is the one that the witness is being protected from, if anyone, or his associates, will be able to see who that witness is. We have a principle in Britain. Justice must be done, must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. In other words, the public are entitled to sit there and say, oh, it's him that's sending our kid down. Well, he's going to have a bad time. So changing the name might do it, but not quite, I suspect, Steve. Matt, also in Warrington. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got, mate?
I'm just having a bit of trouble at the moment, and I hope you can help. Me and two friends moved into a flat just about a year ago, and everything was sorted out, well, we thought, by the letting agent, and unfortunately our landlord hasn't fallen into arrears with their mortgage, and we moved out about a week ago because we got notice of eviction because it was being repossessed. Now, in the meantime, the letting agents have contacted all utility suppliers to let them know that we've moved, and out of this has come an electricity bill with a provider. Now, we thought we were paying it with our gas, with a different one, and we've been paying those bills all year. But this big 1 year long, we don't know the full size of the bill yet, but it'll be for the full year. It has come up, which we didn't know about until today. Which is...
So let me just try and get to the bottom. You say you thought you were paying your electricity with your gas. By that, are you telling me that you thought you'd actually paid some money over, believing it to be for electricity, or did you make a single payment, believing it to be gas and electricity?
Well, we made a single payment quarterly throughout the year to a provider who would provide both. And when we moved in a year ago, we were told that the legislature would take care of notifying all the utility suppliers that we would be in there and we would receive our bills.
So, so effectively, you've had you were in there a year, did you say?
That's right.
So you've had a year of electricity that you thought you were paying for, but weren't.
Yes. Well, I've got a feeling once we look at the bills, it'll become obvious that it's just for the gas, which is our mistake.
But have you also during that time received any electricity bills from?
No, we've received no electricity bills. And the thing is, unfortunately as well, we didn't actually receive any bills from any other suppliers until we notified them ourselves, including the council for the council tax.
Okay, how much is the electricity bill?
Well, it's a guesstimate at the moment, but it's in the region of £600.
It's 200 apiece.
Yeah, but because we've also had to fund the move, which we weren't anticipating, we're all a bit cash-strapped at the moment.
Well, that's fine. I mean, there are a number of things you can do. One, well, you needed to check your gas bill, first of all, and just make sure that you haven't paid for electricity. That's the first thing.
Yep.
You need to check your tenancy agreement, because if you can argue that you thought you were renting the property with the electricity supplied, then you're not liable. It's a difficult one, but I'd read the tenancy agreement just to make sure. Or you can pay 200 quid a piece, or you can ignore it and see what happens.
Right.
Now, I don't recommend ignore it and see what happens, because have they got all your names, first of all?
They've got... I think they've been supplied our names and our new address, which worries me because obviously it's on our credit rating if there's a problem.
Well, if there is a problem, it could well go onto your credit rating, yes. It's one of those things that you seem to be telling me, I can only ever deal with what you're telling me, you seem to be telling me that you thought you were paying it with for dual fuel, if you like.
That's right, yeah.
Now, is there anything you can offer me that will substantiate that you were? Or is it just, oh, yeah, we must be paying that?
No, there's nothing I can show to say that. I don't think... I've not checked the bill.
Okay, you've not checked the bill. So when you look at your gas bill, when your gas bill arrived, the first one, all those months ago, 9 months ago, was it? When your first gas bill arrived, did any of you look at it and see what it was for?
Yes, I mean, we looked through it, and because we were of the understanding that it was going to be from the same supplier. Unfortunately, we made the presumption that that was for everything, and we've been
But it says on it gas.
Right,
and it says, you know, it's like if you go in the pub and you order lager and bitter, you don't just pay for the bitter. And when the bill's presented to you, if you work on a bill, it will say all the things you've had. Well, you got a bill off the gas people, and I presume the bill off the gas people says for gas and gives you the meter reading that they began with from last bill and the meter reading this time, estimated or otherwise, the difference between the two, and that's how much you owe.
I see.
But there was no calculation for electricity, you seem to be telling me.
No, I've only just found this out today and I'm at work, but
well, you've not only just... No, remember, we were talking about 9 months ago when you got your gas bill and you looked at it.
Yeah.
You can't reasonably have believed it was for electricity, because to calculate the cost of your gas, there was a mathematical equation on there for you, or certainly an arithmetical equation, but there wasn't one for the electric. How did they know how much to charge you?
That's well, yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
So in the end,
when we did contact the dual fuel supplier, we did give them because the way it came about as well is. They sent us a bill telling us that the gas supply was going to be taken off because there was quite a large substantial bill that was outstanding from people who were there previously.
Well, look,
so we gave them both the meter readings for the electricity and the gas.
Well, in the end, Matt, it comes down to the tenants to pay the electricity and gas and all the other bills in this occasion, and it is probably going to turn out that you owe them, whoever's name was on the document, if it was a universal name or if it was all three, between you probably owe 600 quid and you'll probably have to pay it.
Right.
But you don't have to pay it in a lump sum. You can get back onto them and say, well, we'll give you this much. We didn't realise you were a supplier and you have never billed us. Or you can say you're getting nothing and chase us to hell. But that could have a bearing on your credit rating. There again, it might not, because they've never presented you with a bill. Why would you be expected to pay it? So it's a 50 of one and half a dozen of the other, as they say. You need to work through it step by step.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline News.
The son of an elderly woman killed in a house fire in Bolton's been describing his shock. The 71-year-old died in the blaze, which is being treated as suspicious in Great Lever late last night. A judge has criticised Greater Manchester Police after they delayed launching a murder investigation into the death of an older man. 2 people were today jailed for life for the murder of Jason Taylor. And Manchester's Primary Care Trust has announced £15 million worth of cash for new services in fields such as alcohol misuse. Manchester's weather largely cloudy, outbreaks of rain, highs of 19 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
The inside lane still closed on the 67 westbound heading towards Manchester because of a broken down van heading towards the Denton Island roundabout. Recovery is now underway. Highways Agency staff are still in attendance at the scene and matrix signs are set to 40 miles per hour. Don't forget though, if you can update me further, the number to call hands-free is 0161244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
And Will Pelly is now going to report on the overcoat won by Venus Williams.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
No overcoats, but Bolton Wanderers could be set to spend big this summer. Wanderers boss Gary Megson looks like he'll be a busy man over the next few months. BBC Radio Manchester's Jack Dearden reports.
The Bolton Wanderers chairman Phil Gartside has indicated that the club could be about to break their transfer record. It's understood their target is Johan Elmander from Toulouse, who would cost Wanderers around £12 million, beating the previous £8 million Bolton paid Fenerbahce for Nicholas Anelka. There's also speculation that Daniel Broughton could possibly move to France as part of the deal. And the Wanderers chairman has also confirmed that other new signings are in the pipeline, with the Wolves midfield player Seye Olofinjana understood to be a realistic target.
Well, Manchester United assistant manager Carlos Queiroz has urged Cristiano Ronaldo to remain at Old Trafford because of the affection the club has for him. The Reds' number 2 says, "We know how to surround Cristiano completely with all the affection and all the attention he deserves." Meanwhile, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will say a final farewell to United fans on August the 2nd when Espanyol visit Old Trafford for his testimonial. The Norwegian was forced to retire last summer after failing to overcome long-term long-term knee problems, but is hoping to feature for at least half an hour of that game. And Bordeaux have given up on a move for Mikel Silvestre. The Reds defender was expected to join up with Laurent Blanc, but that's proved too expensive for the French club. Well, Paul Ince has been formally presented as the new manager of Blackburn Rovers, replacing Mark Hughes. He becomes the first black British manager in the Premier League and only the third ever black coach in the top division's history. Steve McLaren's footballing rehabilitation has begun with his first press conference as FC Twente manager. The former England boss has always dreamt of coaching abroad.
Dutch football, English football are very different. And that is something that excites me. That is why I'm here, for the challenge, for the experience, to sample different cultures, different football, and to continue my education of improving as a coach.
Well, Lou Vincent says his century for Lancashire against Derbyshire is one of the best memories in cricket. Vincent saw the Lightning to victory at Old Trafford yesterday and became only the third Lancs player in history to hit a 2020 century.
The whole experience at Lancashire, I completely came out of the blue. I was just tucked away in Ramsbottom, just playing twice a week. And to look at Lancashire from the outside, it's a massive club. And you look at the names that have come here as an overseas player, and and to get the opportunity was massive. And that 100, it goes down as one of my special moments in cricket.
Well, Zimbabwe's participation in cricket's 2020 World Cup, which takes place in England in 12 months' time, is in doubt. That's after South Africa banned them from any domestic cricket. It's thought that South African players are unhappy about the prospect of playing Zimbabwe because of the current state of affairs in the country. Andy Murray returns to action at Wimbledon after 2 years with a first-round match on centre court against Fabrice Santoro. Murray, who's the 12th seed, says he can win the championships, but three-times winner John McEnroe says he's got a lot to do to achieve it.
He's got to dig deeper in the well if he wants to be up there with the likes of Djokovic. That's the guy that they were comparing a couple years ago. I mean, he's really stepped far away from him. If he were to get at least to the quarters, which he hasn't done in a major, and play in Nadal. Now, that would presume he'd have to get by, I believe, his seed is Gasquet, the 16s who got to the semis here. So that's not going to be easy, but that's doable. And he's got to show that he's in there with the big boys. He's been close, but he's got to beat one of these big guys in a big event. At least he's going to have to make the quarters here and make a strong showing.
Well, defending women's champion Venus Williams, who's been sporting a wonderful overcoat which has fascinated Allan Beswick all afternoon. She faces wildcard Naomi Cavadet, who's ranked 197th in the world. After that match, it's the French Open champion and world number 2 Rafael Nadal against Germany's Andreas Beck. And Joe Calzaghe is split from long-term promoter Frank Warren. The super middleweight champion has been promoted by Warren since 1996, but has ended his association ahead of what could be his final fight later this year.
Heather Stott, the best guess, and a no dull people guarantee.
No, you're so wrong though. You've got it all wrong. Let me tell you.
Put me right.
Perfect hostess's two greatest allies: a push-up bra and a bottle of gin.
I'm coming to your party.
You see, now I think more people would come to my party than to yours. Yeah.
Heather Stott, the best guests, tomorrow morning from 9 on BBC Radio Manchester.
That reminds me of that record of Gracie Fields. I took my app to a party and nobody asked me to play. And she ends up swearing. Well, it was swearing in those days. I think we've kind of moved on from there. But she says, and so I took the damn thing away. I know. Don't please bear with me. I'm doing the best I can. Alison in Manchester. Hiya, Alison.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
Well, I've been thinking about this Law Lord's ruling about the legitimacy of anonymous witnesses.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I think it's incredibly irresponsible of Law Lords to rule this. And I've got a question for you. And I've also got...
Okay.
I've been thinking of... And I think I've got a possible way around the system. But I just cannot believe how irresponsible. The question I'd like to ask you, seeing as how you've seen it or heard the report, have the Law Lords made any provision or guidelines as to what witnesses who are at risk of intimidation, what protection could be made for them, or have just basically said that defendants have got a right
to
know who
first of all, I haven't read the Law Lords report. I've only read a very, very short press report because the decision's only just been made. And I suspect some of the top lawyers in the land haven't yet seen the written report because it won't be ready for a week or two. But it's the decision that's relevant here.
Yeah.
The law lords, they don't make pronouncements, they make decisions. I'm not patronising you, I hope, but what they've decided is that a case that is being heard and the accused found guilty of murder has been appealed on a point of law. In other words, the lawyers representing the convicted man have gone to the courts, the superior court, the appeal court, and said, look, this conviction is not sound because it breaches a basic principle of British justice in that the accused, as he was then, was not able to directly challenge the evidence and the presentation of that evidence by a witness because they were anonymous and behind a screen. And the law lords have said that your appeal is correct because it breaches basic British justice. Now, what the law lords won't do is give advice on how that can be overcome.
Right, and would their ruling stand in just particular circumstances of...
Well, it will stand in the circumstances of a criminal trial because what they appear to have decided, and it will take, as I say, Philadelphia lawyers in a fortnight's time to read through it, but what they appear to have decided is that a case, a prosecution cannot succeed if the principal witnesses are not in court, in view of the accused.
That is just... I just cannot believe that. It's just...
Well, imagine this. Well, first of all, I mean, hold whatever opinion you like of the law lords. I'm not bothered. They're all clever enough and rich enough to stand it. But
they should know better.
No, their job isn't to decide what is right and wrong. They're not in that business. Their job is to pronounce on what the law says.
Yeah.
Now, if they say the law says this, they're not saying, and it is correct that it should say that. They're only deciding what it is that the law says.
And we don't know how old this particular law is.
We do. It's about 600 years old. You have never been allowed to give witness anonymously for centuries. It is only recently that such a thing has been brought in. They've always said in our legal system, I have the right to face my accusers. Now, your witnesses are your accusers. I have the right to face them. I have the right to know who is saying that man is evil and should be taken out of society. I have the right to know who's saying that.
I think in the majority of cases, of criminal cases, be the defendant guilty or innocent, I think that would be true to say, you know, yes, you do have a right. But there are a minority of, I would say, professional criminals who, rather than seeking justice, would jump on this ruling and use it to exploit it to its maximum and just to get away with all kinds of things.
Of course they will.
You know, I mean, what would happen, you know, I can think of straight away two circumstances whereby either evidence behind a screen or anonymously would be, you know, absolutely essential in the case of you know, the main witness being a child, or, you know, a woman who's been raped, you know.
But you see, but Alison, what we always have to address in a free society, you used a phrase, and I've used it too, so this isn't in any way a condemnation of what you said or even the word you used, but you used a phrase. You said that they are evil criminals, they're criminal gangs, they are... Well,
I never said that.
Well, but that was the kind of phrase you used.
Professional criminals.
Professional criminals. Well...
People who know the way around the law.
But Alison, you're not a professional criminal if you've never been convicted of anything. You're not. You're just someone who you don't like, I don't like, the majority of people in society don't like.
Well, maybe our definitions of criminal are different.
Well, no,
my
because-
definition
well-
of a criminal is someone who commits a crime, whether they're caught or not, whether they're convicted or not.
Well, unfortunately, that's a fine for our conversation. We've no problem with that because we're just having a conversation.
But legal definition.
But if the police decide, for it would be they originally, if the police decide that Allan Beswick is the master criminal behind all the guns in Manchester, if they make that decision and take me to court, I'm going to sit in court and I'm going to say, no, I'm not. Now, the job is then upon the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to prove it. Now, if they can't find any evidence, all they would have to do, I don't think they would, all they would have to do would be to get someone from, I don't know, from Warrington to come in, hide behind a screen, claim to be my compatriot, and say, oh, yeah, he definitely is, yeah. We did a bank job together only last Tuesday.
This actually, at this point, is where I've kind of figured out a way in which.
Okay, let's move on then. Let's do the how we solve it.
Okay, well, in the unlikely event that might happen, to sort of assuage any kind of allegation that's happened, I think that witnesses, in cases where, the very, very rare cases where there is a history of intimidation of witnesses or the potential for an intimidation of a witness, and they are very rare, these cases, I think that the witness should be allowed to give testimony anonymously, but only after seeing the judge in chambers with proof of ID and kind of, like a prelude to the not being in the court, but having been questioned or legitimised by the judge.
Well, let me tell you.
And then that would have to be.
Let me tell you why that can't work. That can't work because that would turn the judge into someone who decides on fact, and that's not the judge's job.
I don't mean to say to decide whether the testimony is.
No, he would be deciding on fact. He would be saying, yeah, this is the person you say it is. That's a fact.
No, what I mean is whether it's a history of intimidation or
first of all,
evidence to be given to the
Alison,
judge.
who's going to decide whether there's a history of intimidation?
Well,
who'll make that
either
decision?
the history or the potential, depending on the case and the family.
But Alison, who will make that decision? The police.
Well, no,
the Crown Prosecution Service.
It can't just be one set of
But that's what the trial is for. To decide the facts. Honestly, it's a minefield, Alison. It is an absolute minefield.
It's a serious moral dilemma, and that's what I can't. Although on one hand I can understand that the ruling or the interpretation of a 600-year law. I mean.
Well, first of all, Alison, it's not an interpretation of a 600-year law. It's because people are, if you like, ignoring that 600-year-old principle and replacing it with something modern. And as I was saying with, I think it was Alex we were talking to earlier, my understanding is that this first began in the prosecution of terrorists in Northern Ireland. People wouldn't give evidence because if you gave evidence against the IRA, you were found in a field with a bullet in the back of your head. Exactly. So they decided, we'll never lock any of them up if that's the case, so we'll get round it. And they got round it. And once that worked and went into the legal system, somebody else comes along and says, well, why just the IRA? Why not the, I don't know, the mafia? Let's be silly. Why not the mafia? Because they're as evil as the IRA. So, OK, the mafia. And then you get...
I believe that there is a case for such anonymity in such rare cases as that.
But it's becoming more general. Witnesses...
I'm not aware of, you see.
Well, it always becomes more general. First of all, it was just the IRA. And it was security employees. Then it was the IRA and general witnesses. Then it was serious criminals and general witnesses. And before too long, you'll be getting anonymous evidence for ASBOs, because that's how the system works, unless somebody says, thus far and no further. Now, I don't know the answer.
Well, this is what I was saying, it may be not a judge who kind of decide on the legitimacy of the threat of intimidation or the risk of intimidation, but somebody, or by that...
Well, maybe we need to create... I know what you mean, a body of people. Maybe we need to create it. Alison, I've got to go because the news is on, but it's been fascinating talking to you. And you and me haven't solved it, but you never know, somebody might. What's your view? You know how to tell us. We've got a whole variety of ways.
As we gear up for the congestion charge...
Put your point to Sir Howard Bernstein, Chief Executive of Manchester City Council.
Tomorrow from 6.
If you've something to say, that's fine. The telephone number is 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester for the email address radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk and text 07786 206 951.
95.1 FM, DAB digital radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, Greater Manchester Police are criticised by a judge for delaying a murder investigation and...
She's just quiet. I don't know why someone's done this for. I'm just very shocked.
A son's shock after his mother's death in a Bolton house fire.
United hope they have enough love and affection to keep Ronaldo.
Well, this afternoon will become largely cloudy, and although it'll stay mostly dry, there could just be some light patchy rain. Top temperatures 19 Celsius.
And recovery work still underway to remove that broken down van blocking the inside lane of the 3 heading towards the Denton Island roundabout westbound on the M67.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Rusco. A judge has criticised Greater Manchester Police after they delayed launching a murder investigation into the death of an older man. They'd waited for the results of a post-mortem examination, although Jason Taylor's body had more than 80 injuries on it. GMP have said there are lessons to be learned from the case. Today, a couple were jailed for life for his murder. His former girlfriend, Deborah Burkle, had attacked him in his own home last December and called her boyfriend, Stephen Crawford, to help. Detective Inspector Stephen Pickering said it was a sadistic assault.
She kicked him, she punched him, and we believe she also attacked him with what we believe was a screwdriver as well. Shortly after that, after making contact with Stephen Crawford, he attended the flat. He inflicted the wound which caused Jason's death. Both of them then locked him in, took his keys and took his mobile phone, which was his only means of communicating with the outside world, and left him to die.
The son of an elderly woman killed in a house fire in Bolton's been describing his shock. The 71-year-old died in the blaze in Great Lever late last night. 3 other people, including a child and a firefighter, were also hurt. The fire is being treated as suspicious and investigations have already started.
Well, all I can say, my mum's innocent, my father's innocent. He's in this community. Whoever's come to him, he's always helped them. Whatever the case, he's helped them and all that. And my father's never caused any problems with no one. And my mum, she's just quiet. I don't know why someone's done this for. I'm just very shocked.
Investigations into some serious crimes in Greater Manchester could run into problems after a court ruling in London banned anonymous witnesses from giving evidence in court. Alexia O'Connor has more details.
Well, a £6 million murder trial was brought to a halt after the decision by the law lords who ruled that defendants have the right to know who is giving evidence against them. The trial at the Old Bailey is thought to be the first to be stopped, but dozens of other cases across the country have also been affected. For instance, Greater Manchester Police had offered anonymity to any witnesses who came forward in the Jesse James murder case. GMP told us this afternoon they're in discussions with the Crown Prosecution Service and the Home Office to discuss the impact the ruling will have.
Thanks, Alexia. The British Bankers Association says the number of new mortgages approved by its members for home buyers fell by a fifth last month and is down by more than half since the same time last year. Just under 28,000 such loans were approved in May. The British Bankers Association blamed the fall on tighter lending criteria and economic pressures on households. Now, can you help the police catch arsonists who've been setting fire to property belonging to the probation service in Wigan? So far, they've wrecked 2 minibuses and an office. No one's been injured, but there's a £1,000 reward up for grabs. And more money's on the way for your frontline NHS services. Manchester's Primary Care Trust has announced £15 million worth of cash for new services in fields such as alcohol misuse, improving the health of people with learning difficulties, and children's services. Mental health provision and work to prevent heart disease will also benefit.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Ian Cheeseman.
Bolton Wanderers could be set to spend big this summer by breaking their transfer record with a £12 million signing of Johan Elmander from Toulouse. Wanderers chairman Phil Gartside is reportedly flying to France to complete the deal for the Swedish midfielder, which would make Elmander the record signing at the Reebok, followed by £8 million for Nicholas Anelka. Daniel Broughton is expected to move in the opposite direction as part of the deal. Manchester United's assistant manager Carlos Queiroz has urged Cristiano Ronaldo to remain at Old Trafford because of the affection the club has for him. The Reds' number 2 says that we know how to surround Cristiano completely with all the love and affection and all the attention that he deserves. Meanwhile, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will say a final farewell to United fans on August the 2nd when Espanyol visit Old Trafford for his testimonial. The Norwegian was forced to retire last summer after failing to overcome long-term knee problems, but he's hoping to feature for at least half an hour. Bordeaux have given up on a move for Mikel Silvestre. The Reds defender was expected to join up with Laurent Blanc, but that's proved too expensive for the French club. And in tennis, Andy Murray takes on the Frenchman Fabrice Santoro on centre court at Wimbledon this afternoon. If you wanted to watch it on the TV, it could be a while, though, because he's not expected on until the 3rd appearance of the day. The women's champion, Venus Williams, begins her defence against Britain's Naomi Cavaday.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stotts.
Well, this afternoon, many of us will just about manage to get away with a dry afternoon. The cloud is thickening, though, so we're not going to see an awful lot of sunshine, and there is the possibility that we could see a little bit of light and patchy rain. Top temperatures this afternoon, not too bad, 19 Celsius.
Allan Beswick, halfway through your workday.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hi, if you've got something to say today, the number's 0161228 2255. You can email me on radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk, and you can text on 07786 206 951. And Lawrence in Wigan has texted to say that Paul Ince is the first British black manager in the Premiership. I hadn't even thought of him about being black until this news item. It's Lawrence in Wigan. Yeah, well, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that you are, in that context, colourblind. Quite right, too. However, it is an historic moment, isn't it? It's historic in that he is the first one. Given the number of black players that are now in the Premiership, there are going to be a lot more in the future. But it takes a decade, 15 years sometimes, to work from the Premiership as a player, to retire, injured or otherwise, and to come through as a manager at a later date. But there you are. Long way from getting the first woman, aren't we? But there it is. Paul Ince is the first black British manager. By that I mean British person. I mean, I think there have been 2 others. There was Ruud Gullit, or whatever his name was. It always sounded like Ruud Gullit to me. My apologies to him if I've pronounced it wrongly. And another one, and I can't remember his name, but I remember seeing his face. Ivy in Rochdale, how are you doing?
Hello, doing okay.
Good, what can we do?
Just a couple of months ago, I came into some money and it's gone into the bank, and I've ordered a new car. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Oh, I've ordered a new car and it's ready. I can go and pick it up today. But in the meantime, they've said they don't do credit cards and they'll only pay up to so much. They'll only take up to so much in cash. But they'll accept a banker's draft, which I'm willing to do that. But is my money secure with the banker's draft if anything went wrong, as it would be with a credit card?
When you say, is my money secure, what,
if
what do you mean?
anything went wrong with the car and they had to, make a complaint or anything.
Right. If you paid with a credit card, you would have equal protection with your credit card company that you get from the garage.
Right.
If you paid with a credit card. But garages, A, they're reluctant to take credit cards, and B, if they do take a credit card, and some do, they will want extra for it. They will want you to pay what it costs them, and in the case of a new car, that can actually be a couple of £100 depending on the price of the car.
Right.
And I don't know how much the car is costing anyway, but in terms of the safety of the transaction, your banker's draft is fine. If you pay...
Oh, fine.
Well, it's fine in terms of the transaction. Your money won't go awry.
Yes.
But the extra protection you get with credit, you won't get because there's no credit involved.
Right. Okay.
So just if you get a banker's draft and pay it, if it's a new car, it's brand new.
Yes, I know there's a 3-year warranty.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, the 3-year warranty. Let me just ask you. You might know the. Is it a 3-year manufacturer's warranty?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Well, don't you worry. I'll ask you. What kind of car are you buying?
It's a Mazda.
It's a Mazda.
Yeah.
Then I think with a Mazda, the warranty isn't by the garage, it's by the manufacturer. So it's a 3-year manufacturer's warranty.
Right.
So you should be okay. The only time you wouldn't be okay was if Mazda went bust.
Right.
Because if out goes wrong with a car, the garage, this is the great thing about manufacturers' warranties with cars.
Yeah.
If anything goes wrong with the car as a result of a fault, the garage they love mending it.
Right.
Whereas in the past, they don't like mending it because it costs them money. Garages love mending cars under the warranty because they get paid. They get paid by the manufacturer.
Right. Okay.
All right, so I wouldn't worry too much.
Because they've rang today and said I could go
and get it with a banker's draft. Well, if you go to the bank...
I felt as if I didn't want to be bothered. I'm too scared of buying it now.
No, you're not. No, have you ever had a new car?
Never.
Oh, you're going to love it, Ivy. It's honest. I don't even like cars, and it's a great sensation the first time you do it. It's just magical. And that wonderful smell is fabulous. So you enjoy it. But go to your bank. They'll write a cheque out. That's all it is, really, a posh cheque. And it's a cheque made out to the garage by the bank.
Right.
So they'll release your car, and you have many hours of happy motoring.
Oh, thanks very much.
Good on your Ivy.
I feel easy now. I'll go and have a sleep.
Well, don't have a sleep. Oh, I'd be too excited to sleep.
No, I want to get over this emotion that's nearly crippling me at the minute.
We'll have a ball with it, love.
I mean, it's a free car because the money's been given to me.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, they're the best of all.
Yeah.
Well, good on you. Yeah, it's fabulous. Good on you. Good on you.
Thanks, Alan.
Have a good day. Have a good 10 years in your car. Splendid.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye-bye now. There you are, your first brand new car. Many people... I know. Many people go through life. They can never afford a brand new car. And, some people get them... I know a bloke that replaces his car every year. But honestly, the first time you buy your own brand new car, it really is a little bit of magic. John in Lee. Hiya, John.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got, mate?
Well, it's about this law, this witness thing.
Yeah.
I just wonder, how will you be able to, attack the witness's character if you don't know who it is? Because you're allowed to attack the character.
You are indeed. You're allowed to say that this man has been in court 15 other times and lied every time.
Yeah. So if you don't know who it is, how can you do it?
Well, you can't. That is precisely what the law lords have decided.
Oh, well, they're going to have a big pool full of professional witnesses, aren't they? The police will have them in somewhere.
Actors from central casting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we've quite got to that, but that could be the next stage.
They definitely will. They abuse everything else. They got them pepper sprays for protection. And they're using them for control people. Do you know what I mean? Not for the protection. Them rubber bullets will be next, smacking you in the head, you know what I mean?
But that's the way it always goes, doesn't it? It always goes that you open the door a teeny bit for a very sensible decision, and then another one comes along, the next thing you know, the door's widely ajar, and you're looking at some other process to change.
They'll abuse it some more. It's up to them. It'll not affect me at all.
Well, let's wait and see.
But about them wheelie bins, Alan, like yesterday when you run about them.
Yes.
Right, a simple bloke like me's worked it out. It's all down for money.
Money?
Yeah, because I'll give you a scenario. Me and you, there's 5 of us live in the same street, 5 houses in the same street. We all phone up, we want this fridge taken away. So he comes, the councilman, takes 5 fridges away, right, for nothing, because we pay it in a council tax.
Yeah.
Year after, they said, right, we're charging them a tenner apiece. So we all phoned up a ring, because fridges only last 1 month now, and they're back in. So we throw another 5 fridges away. So they said, oh, it'll cost £10 a piece this time. And then me and you said, well, I'm not paying a tenner. So when he comes day after, there's 2 fridges in the middle of the road. Whose are them? We don't know. So he takes 3 away and puts them other 2 on because he has to. They still get 30 quid.
They still get 30 quid.
They still get 30 quid, don't they?
I can see you're a businessman, John.
They still get 30 quid.
They get 30 quid, and at the moment they're getting nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good on you, mate. I like that you're
not bothered, Alan, about
That's why they're not bothered. Yeah. Good on you. Cheers. Have a good one. 0161 228 2255. The case that was at the Law Lords today was the case of the contract killing of a Mr. Butler who was 50 years of age, and the case was caught on CCTV. The jury was shown footage of Mr. Butler being chased by a gunman and shot in the neck as he arrived home in Green Lanes in Dagenham in East London in October 2004. He died 9 months later, in June 2005, having never regained consciousness. The alleged gunman, Douglas Johnson, and his getaway driver, alleged David Austin, both of South London, denied murder. The trial had been delayed by illness and was restarted after 12 days because a juror was discharged. Judge Padgett told the court that the trial had been beset by problems from the start. Finally, I'm afraid the trial has been delayed, and I'm afraid I will have to discharge you and order a retrial in the new year. Last Wednesday, the House of Lords decided in a very far-reaching judgment that evidence from anonymous witnesses cannot be admitted. The reason for that is because of the difficulties caused to the defence if they do not know the identity of the witnesses against them and are deprived of investigating why these people may be inaccurate or, worst, untruthful. So there you are. That's the case that's been abandoned today simply because of this decision last week by the Law Lords. Dominic in Eccles. Hiya, Dominic.
Hello.
What have you got?
I'm phoning because I'm infuriated by the traffic congestion charging.
Okay.
I recently got the leaflet through the paper. There's lots of people who managed to lid on. And what really bothers me about it is there's quite a lot of things that they're claiming are new for the congestion charge. Because we will be paying the congestion charge, this is what extra you'll get. Well, a lot of those things they've made out aren't actually new.
For instance?
For instance, they said that, or for one example, they said that you get new bus routes down from Bury. For Bury, the people who live in Bury, they said you get new bus routes down from Bury, and that you'd also get 2 trams in the morning, double trams in the morning, and of an evening in rush hour. They should have been getting them ages ago. The new bus routes that they're talking about, they've already got.
Let me stop you a sec. When you say they should have been getting them ages ago, that implies that they're not getting them.
Yeah, they're not getting them still now. Yeah.
Right. So they will be getting them. When they say you're not getting them now and you will be getting them, that's new.
Yes, but it's not because of the investment. It's investment that should have been made quite a long time ago.
Hang on. You can't have your cake and your ate me on this one. We'll get to the bus routes in a minute. You can't say we should have had it, therefore we did, and therefore this isn't new. You can argue we should have had it and we didn't, and the council, well, it's not the council, it's the congestion charge people at AGMA are saying, well, you've not had that previously, and if we get the money, you will get it. So that is new. You might say it should have been there all the time, but that doesn't matter. It wasn't there, and as a result of the congestion charge, it will be there. That makes it new.
Right, okay.
Okay. That's just a language problem. It's nothing to do with the argument. That's just straightforward language.
Then
go on to the buses.
Say that the bus routes, they say the quality bus routes, they say, are already there, aren't they? They did those a couple of years ago. Put extra bus lanes down to Manchester, so I don't know what else they can do to improve the buses down from Manchester.
I can't answer the specific on that. Certainly there will be... if what they're saying is the things you've already got in situ, and by that I don't mean coming, the things you've already got in situ, if the things that you've already got in situ are now being included in that, that is unacceptable. If they're saying, well, yes, you have got some bus lanes on the way in, but we're going to improve that, that's new.
Right, yeah, but I said we have had quite a lot of new bus routes down from Bury, so I think, and the same from Altrincham line. So I've lived quite all over Manchester, and I've commuted regular. I used to get the tram in from Bury, etc. So I do understand the situation, and I try to get public transport where I can, but it's definitely not.
Well, I'll tell you what to do. I mean, far be it for me to recommend you phone somebody else, but if you want to, tomorrow morning, Sir Howard Bernstein, who's the chief executive of Manchester City Council, but is also a great supporter of the congestion charge, is coming in to us, coming into Eamon and Di from 6 o'clock onwards to take your calls live. So if you want to talk to him tomorrow, you can ring fairly early, talking to Eamon and Di on BBC Radio Manchester.
From 6 in the morning?
Yeah.
Great.
And put your question direct to him. Now, he may not be completely au fait about Bury, because he's the chief executive of Manchester City Council, but he might be able to argue the principle, or discuss the principle with you on the basis that, well, there are things in there which we're counting as new which aren't new.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like there are quite a lot of things in there.
Well, that would be something you could put direct to him tomorrow, but I'd be careful with your words, because he's even more precise with his language than am I. And I'll be frank with you, I cannot imagine that the Association of Greater Manchester Authorities, and I rarely say this of local authorities because I think they're a bit like the BBC. They are well able to be utterly stupid. But on a document like this that is absolutely crucial, I think they will have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I suspect they will have an answer to every question you can put, but that is just a suspect. I'm giving them.
I do understand, yeah. But
I'm giving them credence to a reputation that they may well not have earned.
There are loads of things. I mean, it's like the line out to Oldham. They did mention the line out to Oldham. That was proposed years ago.
It was proposed, but it wasn't funded. Well, it wasn't ever. It wasn't.
And they took that. I feel people in Manchester feel that was that line, and the one out to the traffic centre was taken away from us.
I live in Lee. Well, I live in Atherton, but it's Atherton-Lee. I'm on the border, as it happens, but I live in that area. Now, I'm dead set against. I think it'll be a complete and utter mess, and I don't bloody want it. Yep. This guided bus route, as it's called. I don't want it. I think it'll make it worse, but that's neither here nor there. But I've been talking about that on this programme with, principally with Roger Jones, who was in charge of it all, because he was chairman of AGMA, the transport element, anyway. And I've been talking with him about that. Now, that's never been a firm proposal. It's only ever been a good idea. They did apply to the government for money once before and were turned down. And now it's back in. So that is new. The idea's not new, but the fact that it's going to happen is new. In fact, when the congestion charge was approved at government, everybody went, apart from you perhaps, but everybody went, yeah, at least we've got it. And I went, oh, crap. That means the A580 is going to be knackered. But there you are. But that was new. The plan's always been there for 10 years that I know of. But the actuality, that's new, and it's crap.
And what bothers me about the congestion charging more as well is the fact that the figures are going to change. They're talking about only costing a little bit of money now. Everyone just needs to look at London, don't they, to see that. But as soon as it comes in, they're going to bang it up. Within a year, it'll be double what it is
one of
now.
the things we have round here, and we did it with the Commonwealth Games, we did it with, well, almost every bit of development here. One of the things we've done round here that they have failed remarkably to do everywhere else, and I don't just mean Manchester, I mean round here, is delivered it on time, on price. Bridgewater Hall, Lowry, the stadium for the Commonwealth Games, the swimming baths, so many things round here have been delivered on time, including Metrolink all those years ago initially, delivered on time and on budget. They can't do that in London, but then London is populated by gangsters and ne'er-do-wells. Good on you, Dominic.
All right, thank you.
Have a good day, mate.
Cheers.
But we get it right round here, that's what we do.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline News.
A judge has criticised Greater Manchester Police after they delayed launching a murder investigation into the death of an older man. 2 people were jailed for life for his murder today. Investigations into some serious crimes in Greater Manchester could run into problems after a court ruling in London banned anonymous witnesses from giving evidence in court. And the number of new mortgages fell by a fifth last month and is down by more than half since the same time last year. Manchester's weather largely cloudy, outbreaks of rain, highs of 19 Celsius. I'm Faye Rusco.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Better news on the M67. That broken down vehicle has now been recovered from junction 2 Kingston and Denton Island. If you're travelling through Romilly though, Stockport Road still closed because of that overturned lorry between Beach Lane and Berrycroft Lane. It's overturned outside Romilly station, and I'm afraid the road's likely to remain closed now until around about 3 o'clock this afternoon. But it does seem that all trains heading over that part of the track are back to normal. Don't forget, if you can update me further though, do get in touch. Make sure, of course, it's hands-free before you dial that number 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
David's obviously just got a ticket because he says, Alan, read this law lord's decision over anonymous witnesses. Does that mean that all fixed penalty cases are unsafe, as the chief constable is the primary accuser and I never saw him in court? I should give it a try, David. I should appeal your conviction immediately. And it'll only cost you about 15,000, and chase it all the way to the House of Lords. I wish you luck in your endeavours, sir. It'll be money well spent, don't you worry. Colin in Royston. Hi, Colin.
Hello, Alan.
What have you got?
Right, these children working in India.
Yes.
Right, just after the war, I used to work on markets, and then they got a bloke, the Labour Party got a bloke coming round saying we couldn't work till we were 13. And, what we used to do, we used to run off and hide from him, you know, when he was coming.
Yeah.
So, well, to get back at it, they tried to stop us, but they didn't do anyway. Anyway, what happened with them kids in India today, I hope them people in your Panorama programme are all happy today, because them kids have just took the bread out of their mouth.
Well, that's the scary bit, isn't it? What happens if they're the only people getting work round there? What happens when you take the work off them?
Well, they've just done it. Primark have just said they've sacked them companies.
Yeah, they've closed the factory, yes. We're not dealing with them anymore. But
they were outside working, you see. So they didn't even know. So Panorama, your BBC programme's gone out there now, and all them kids now are suffering because of a stupid programme. Well, just harm any kids.
Well, first of all, that's unfair. I mean, by all means, slag off the BBC any time you like, and Panorama as well, because frankly, I think they've spoilt it by putting it in one presenter's hands, but that's just me. But the truth is that I think the BBC and other media don't cause anything. We merely tell you what's going on. Now, the public at large want to know if the reason their goods are cheap is because somebody is engaged working for a handful of rice a year. They want to know. What is then done about it is not the job of the journalist. The journalist's job is to say, here are the facts. This is what is going on. Now, nobody says that. I feel sure, I didn't see Panorama last night, I know that, but I feel sure that Panorama didn't say, and quite frankly, this should stop. What they said was, this is what's going on. Primark decided, I suspect, once the programme was coming in, that it was unacceptable behaviour on the part of the agency that finds the goods for them, and they've said don't do that, because there is an agreement in the West that that kind of child labour will not be used. Now, there is a problem with that, and you point well to it, Colin.
It's been going on for thousands of years, isn't it?
Well, yes, but it's the difference in cultures, isn't it? It's the difference in cultures.
That's what we used to do it here.
Well, exactly.
My grandfather and grandmother left at 11, half time, started at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Till 12 o'clock, and then at 1 o'clock went to school. But at 12, she was full-time.
That's the way it's always been.
I'm in a cotton mill, not like that little girl looked after sewing away there.
Well, we've known for, in Dickens's time, they used children, because they were tiny, to clean chimneys. They used to go up and clean them with an hand brush.
Well, but we know all that, but they were only in big mansions, that it weren't in our place.
Well, no, I know it wasn't in yours, but what I'm saying is that they are... We have slowly but surely, over the past 200 years, done away with child labour.
You know something now, Alan? We put kids on longer and longer in school. They're only talking about 18.
Yeah.
Don't you create a load of lazy?
I don't know whether you're creating a load of lazies, but you're certainly creating a load of people who've got no direction in their life, because they learnt everything that their brain was able to absorb by about the age of 12, and since then they've learnt virtually nothing and just cluttered up the bloody schools.
Correct.
Doing sod all.
Yeah.
It's
I've got a lad working for me now, right? He does 2 days at college, and he's on that scheme. You know where they give him £50 to work?
Oh, yes.
It's the biggest waste of time. Now, he's broke up, and you know when he goes back, on the 10th of September, now he start learning a trade. He can come with me and learn more. You know, just like he comes to me, he wants to come and help and learn something. And I've had other lads who've learned with me at a younger age.
Well, it's the old story, isn't it? The learning that counts is the practical learning, but the learning you can measure is the book learning. It was always that way. But Colin, good to talk to you, mate.
Can I have one word?
Yeah.
One more word about McGarvey now in Rhodesia.
Go on.
I don't call it that name.
Just say it. Go on, anyway.
Right. You might remember. You will. You remember when Wilson went on that destroyer and they come off the coast of Africa?
I think it was HMS Manchester, but I could be wrong. Go on, anyway.
And you know Smith went across the sea.
He did?
And Rhodesia was one of the prosperous countries in Africa, even prosperous than South Africa.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And that man got in, and they let a communist come in. That country, by right, when Smith got independence from us, we threatened him. Right? We threatened him that we'd go in, and that man, by the way, fought for the Royal Air Force as a fighter pilot. And I bet there were about 200 lads came over from Rhodesia to fight for us.
I think there were probably more than that. Colin, good on you, mate. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's fine by me. Just have your say, get it off your chest and do all the rest of it. David says, Alan, are we as a species ready to adapt to things that are sure to occur? At this time, we've allowed certain greedy people to take more than they give and set up boundaries. Computers have advanced to the point where they could be used to monitor all the people in the world. People who do what is right for all humanity should be recognised not with money, just with status. We must live together and look after each other to look forward. This is the eternal life that we can be part of. And that's from David. And it sounds awfully like it's taken from, well, an interpretation, if you will, of Das Kapital. Thank you, Barry. Barry in Middleton says, no, it wasn't HMS Manchester. Well, it was worth a try. It was HMS Tiger. Growl. Yeah, I wonder why I thought it was. Just conflagration of two failed memories, or two failed items within my memory, to be more accurate. Brian says, Alan, you said to your female caller that someone cannot be called a professional criminal if they've never been convicted. Of course they can. Whether one has ever been caught or not has nothing to do with it. If, for example, I make a living out of robbing banks, then I am a professional criminal, irrespective of whether or not I have ever been caught. What I'm not, however, is a professional convicted criminal, which is a different thing altogether. Well, Brian, much as I love semantics, it depends on how you're using the definition. So, if you're saying a criminal is someone that you think has done something against the law, then you're correct. But if, like me, you think a criminal is someone who's been convicted of a crime, then you're wrong. But you're entitled to your definition. It's no more right, nor indeed wrong, than the one I was using on that occasion. And I do flip between the two, just to keep you on your toes, Brian. Oh dear. Just a couple of corrections. Well, come on, you've got a society with secrets. You can't expect me to know everything. Lee in Liverpool says, just a couple of corrections. Freemasons swear on whichever holy book they wish and must profess a belief in God. If a budding member says that they don't believe in God, they're not allowed in. The Freemasonic God is known as the Great Architect of the Universe, abbreviated to TGAOTU. At lower levels of Freemasonry, this is taken to be a catch-all title for God, be that Allah, Jehovah, or what have you. But as you rise up the ranks, the true nature of the Freemasonic God used to be revealed as an entity known as Jabulon, a combination of the gods Jehovah, Baal and Osiris. Many took great exception to this god, and many left Masonry at that point. However, I believe that this name has been dropped and is no longer used in rituals, and therefore, maybe, is not the Masonic god anymore. Most Masons I know see it as little more than a drinking or dining club and have no knowledge or interest in any darker side to it. I didn't become a Mason myself because I was asked if I wanted to be put forward for my lodge by somebody who had known me for less than 20 minutes. I was quite interested at the time, which was why I was asking so many questions of the man in question. But in a similar way to Groucho Marx, who wouldn't join a club that would have him as a member, I thought it strange that an organisation that is supposed to maintain standards of some sort would recommend membership for somebody they don't know anything about. Probably saved myself a few quid over the years, he says. That's Lee in Liverpool. Well, thank you for that. We're talking about the Masons because on this day in 1717, the first Freemasons' Lodge in London, and I think the United Kingdom, came into being. David said, "Good morning, Allah," and then a PS at the end saying, "The salutation at the beginning was a Freudian slip of the finger, but what the hell if the cap fits?" Very good. To be absolutely pedantic, he said, "From what I've read, the Freemasons don't actually refer to him as the great architect in the sky, as that would give it a space to exist in, but as the great architect of the universe." It was in Dr. Crippin's final statement from the dock before having sentence passed upon him. When you think of it, it's logical. It puts him in the same trade as they were originally, and therefore makes him the ultimate Grand Master. So there you are. They refer to their deity, as it were. Their deity is referred to not as the great architect in the sky, as I said, but the great architect of the universe. And frankly, I have a bit of difficulty spotting the difference between the two, beyond one is pedantically correct and the other is not. And for me, that's often enough. Alan, can you tell me why bus drivers are allowed to put their country's flag across the front of their bus, yet my son was told to take his UK flag out of his cab or lose his licence because it just makes racism worse? Hilda. Hilda, I can't tell you either of those things because I don't know. But my guessing is, Hilda, that it wasn't the UK flag that your son was told to take out of his cab. I suspect it was the Cross of St. George. It doesn't change the argument or the question, but I don't know the answer to your question. I frankly don't think public vehicles should have any flags on them at all. However, if we had a respect for our emblems of state to the same degree as the United States, and other states, to be honest, but the United States is the one that springs to mind, then the flag would be on all sorts of things. I found it interesting. I've only been to the United States twice. No, I've not. I've been 3 times, you clown. But once was only for 2 days and doesn't really count. Anyway, I've only been to the United States a few times. And just about every building, not just public buildings, just about every building flies the Stars and Stripes, the flag of that nation. And if you're going to express a pride in your nation in that way, it strikes me as being in no way harmful. So maybe, I mean, people who have large front gardens have flags of the United States, their flag flying on a flagpole outside their house. And good luck to me. It's not really my cup of tea. I wouldn't do it because I'm not that way inclined, but I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, the idea of bus drivers flying a cloth flag across the front of their bus, I think that's silly. It's just daft. It's like those clowns that put "I'm supporting Warrington" in their back window. Do you think the bloke behind you gives a toss who you support? Of course they don't. But there you are. No harm is done. So I would say if all the public buildings want to fly the flag and the public vehicles want to have the flag adorning their vehicle in some way, you know, like Allan Beswick taxis, and then underneath the Union flag and then the phone number, fine, I've no problem with that. Or even, I don't like fluttery flags on aerials. Don't think does any good at all. There is that terrible joke, isn't there, about about a flag and a long aerial. You remember we had a penchant in this country for a while of having aerials on vehicles that were about 10 foot high. Little whippy aerials, 10 foot high. And this car went round the corner. It's true, went round the corner. And the aerial flipped across like that. And it gashed a bloke, the end of it, gashed a bloke across the face. Huh? It was this white van, and it turned out it was the worst case of van aerial disease there's ever been. Well, exactly. It's a lousy gag. Lousy gag. But we do lousy gags. That's what we're here for. I'm auditioning for WOW. Any road. I can't tell you why bus drivers are allowed to drape their flag on the bus when your son is not allowed to drape his flag on his taxi, or his cab, as you describe it. I don't know whether... And told he would lose his licence. But the council, the local authority, doesn't regulate the adornment of buses. And so that's an issue between the bus driver and the bus proprietor. But they do licence hackney vehicles and private hire vehicles, and do have the right, whether they should or not is irrelevant, they do have the right to say what can and what cannot adorn such vehicles. So that's the legitimate answer to your question. Whether it satisfies you is an entirely different matter. And David says, does this law statement, this is always a good question, does this law statement, you know, the one about witnesses and anonymity and all the rest of it, does this law statement also mean that Muslim women must remove their veil when giving evidence, or could the MI6 operative simply wear one to get round it? Well, the answer is, I don't know. But if the person giving evidence normally wears a veil, then I suppose that is who they are, and that is how they will be allowed to give evidence. But frankly, I don't know, and I wouldn't like to start pretending that I do. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, you've got 20 minutes in which to do so. And then, of course, and she's indoors today, she's not gallivanting or Sky. She hates doing it. She only does it for the expenses. She's on about 10 quid a mile. You'd be surprised how much you make on the way to the Trafford Centre or wherever. The airport, they send a limousine for her. They do. They send a huge limousine. And then they have a bloke there in a suit and a top hat pushing her handbag, because there's nobody on the planet can actually lift Becky Want's handbag, pushing her handbag on one of them trolleys they have at the airport. Very scary. She dropped it once. We're still having the hole filled in.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Headline news.
Greater Manchester Police have come under fire from a judge after the force delayed launching a murder investigation into the death of a man in Oldham. 2 people have today been jailed for life. Investigations into some serious crimes in Greater Manchester could run into problems after a court ruling in London barred anonymous witnesses from giving evidence in court. And some of your energy suppliers have warned that fuel prices will have to rise significantly later this year. Manchester's weather, largely cloudy, outbreaks of rain, highs of 19 Celsius. I'm Mark Edwardson.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, if you're coming off Mancunian Way on towards Granby Row on the approach to Sackville Street, watch out for delays there at the moment. It's looking fairly heavy on camera. And if you're travelling on the motorways, then watch out for some slow-moving traffic on the M6. Slightly built up, I noticed on camera for some reason, between Junction 19 and Junction 18 on the southbound carriageway. Better news on the M67 westbound. All lanes have now reopened between 2 Kingston and Denton Island at Junction 24. There was a broken down van there earlier on this afternoon. As I say, it's been recovered since, and traffic's moving well. And in Romilly, Stockport Road still completely closed off because of an overturned lorry between Beach Lane, George Lane and Berrycroft Lane. The road's likely to remain shut off now until around about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Don't forget, if you can update me further, do get in touch. I'd really love to hear from you. The number to dial, of course, as always, 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports.
Afternoon, I'm Ian Cheeseman. Bolton Wanderers could be set to spend big this summer. BBC Radio Manchester's Wanderers correspondent is Jack Dearden.
The Bolton Wanderers chairman Phil Gartside has indicated that the club could be about to break their transfer record. It's understood their target is Johan Elmander from Toulouse, who would cost Wanderers around £12 million, beating the previous £8 million Bolton paid Fenerbahce for Nicholas Anelka. There's also speculation that Daniel Broughton could possibly move to France as part of the deal. And the Wanderers chairman has also confirmed that other new signings are in the pipeline, with the Wolves midfield player Seye Olofinjana understood to be a realistic target.
Manchester United's assistant manager Carlos Queiroz insists that Cristiano Ronaldo will get all the affection he deserves if he stays at Old Trafford. He's quoted as saying, "We know how to surround Cristiano completely with all the affection and all the attention he deserves." Paul Ince has been speaking for the first time as the new manager of Blackburn Rovers. Ince took MK Dons to the League 2 title last season and feels now is the right time for him to make the move to the top flight.
The gap appeared. Marcus went to Man City, and that left the gap for me. And I'm very excited about the prospect of being manager of Blackburn. The fact that I'm in the Premier League, whether I'm black, white, or doesn't really colour really matters. You know, I'm proud of where I come from, but I'm just proud to be back in the Premiership.
Oldham Athletic expect demolition of the new Start Mortgages stand to be complete next week. Already the seats have been ripped out and clearance work is well underway. And the fixtures are out today for one of the reserve leagues, but the Pontins League will now revert to its old title as the Central League. Andy Murray returns to action at Wimbledon after 2 years with a first-round match on centre court today against Fabrice Santoro. Murray, who's the 12th seed, says he can win the championships, but three-times winner John McEnroe says he's got a lot to do to achieve that.
He's got to dig deeper in the well if he wants to be up there with the likes of Djokovic. That's the guy that they were comparing a couple of years ago. I mean, he's really stepped far away from him. If he were to get at least to the quarters, which he hasn't done in a major, and play in Nadal. Now, that would presume he'd have to get by, I believe, his seed is Gasquet, the 16s who got to the semis here. So that's not going to be easy, but that's doable. And he's got to show that he's in there with the big boys. He's been close, but he's got to beat one of these big guys in a big event. At least he's going to have to make the quarters here and make a strong showing.
And he's expecting us to, well, he is the third one on centre court, so there might be a little while before he's on. And Joe Calzaghe is split from long-term promoter Frank Warren. The super middleweight champion has been promoted by Warren since 1996, but has ended his association ahead of what could be his final fight later this year.
Wimbledon 2008 on the BBC.
Davydenko winds up into the serve.
Live, online.
Backhand return from Dementieva.
On TV.
Backhand from Murray. Forehand return from Handikova.
The red button.
Now Nadal. Down the line.
HD.
Venus Williams. Ferocious reply.
And with news on your mobile.
Here's the smash that wins Roger Federer. 5 Wimbledon championships in a row.
Wimbledon 2008, where greatness awaits.
Greatness awaits who, though? I mean, if it's them that are always winning, they've already got greatness. It's not waiting for them, it's already there. Yeah. Ah, well. What do I know? Come to think of it, what do I care? As long as they don't make me watch it. And as for listening to it, dear God, they actually put it on the radio. It's all just gibberish, it's all just waddling round in your head. Nothing's really happening, just some bloke shouting a lot. Bert in Eel Green, hiya, Bert.
Hello, Alan. Somebody just sent me a cycle catalogue. And what happened to mudguards off bicycles?
Well, they're still there if you buy the right sort of bicycle.
But nearly all of them that they show, nearly all of the bikes you see now don't have mudguards. Don't people get wet?
Yes, they do, but nearly all the bicycles that are sold now are these mountain bikes, as they used to be called, but these off-road bikes. Well, if you're going to be... If you go in mucky water and mud and all that gubbins up the side of the hill on your mountain bike, and you've got ordinary mudguards on, they'll just get bunged up and slow you down because there'll be a great lump of mud in there. Yeah. So they'll make it worse. So, no, they don't have mudguards, and yes, you do get wet, especially your bum. Because it all flux up onto your... Flux? I don't know what that is. It all flicks up onto your bum, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
They use it in soldering, don't they, Flux? Yeah. Anyway, so I've no idea...
That's the reason, right.
I don't know. I mean, people seem to... I don't know why anyone in their right mind buys a mountain bike for road use.
No.
Because you pedal like buggery, you're not going anywhere. And worse still, particularly if you have them pimply tyres.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're forever fighting against the tyre, because the tyre's meant to dig in the floor. And on soft ground it does. But if you're on a tarmac road, or the footpath, where most of them are, I suppose, or on a hard road, it doesn't dig in, and every time the little front end of every pimple hits the road, it slows you down.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're actually... You watch on the open road, on an ordinary flat surface, if you pedal and then stop pedalling and let it freewheel, a mountain bike with pimply tyres will slow down more quickly than any other vehicle, any other bicycle, because of those little pimply tyres, which are brilliant. It's like I played rugby once in the middle of summer in a charity match, and I nearly crippled myself because I wore my boots. And, of course, you've got all these studs.
Yeah.
And instead of sinking into the ground to give you grip, they stayed up there and gave you 6 bruises all over your bloody feet. And at half-time, I had to swap into trainers.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, so that's anyway, that's the reason they don't have mud guards, because you don't have them on mountain bikes.
Well, come on, Alan.
All right, go on.
I object very strongly to the, what do they call it?
I don't know.
Over the town, going in the town.
Oh, the congestion charge?
Congestion charge.
Why?
Well, I've got a car. I don't use it. I use the tram, and I use the bus and the train a lot, which is free most of the time. And it's going to put all these people on it.
Well, there'll be more of it.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. That's what they say. There'll be a lot more people crowding my means of transport.
It's an outrage and a scandal. Well, once that starts, you can get your car out.
Oh, I don't want to.
Oh, it's miles better. Good on you.
OK, Alan, see you.
Cheers, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bert says the trouble with the congestion charge, it's going to make people use public transport and it'll just clutter it up for him. Percentage-wise, says Ted in Moston, percentage-wise, more men from Rhodesia signed up for combat than from anywhere else in the whole of the British Empire. This is talking about World War II. Including Ian Smith, who was shot down 3 times over Italy, Harold Wilson betrayed Rhodesia and Ian Smith by calling for the release of Robert Mugabe. At the time, Mugabe was serving 10 years for arranging to have a Rhodesian MP assassinated in 1964. In 1975, Mugabe was released and started killing people who opposed him and his party ZANU-PF. He even had an aeroplane shot down in 1979, says Ted in Moston. Well, that's the way it is, isn't it? Once a terrorist, always a terrorist. Once a terrorist, very quickly thereafter, one can easily become a state leader. The evidence of that is all over. And seeing as how we've mentioned, NH in Tameside said it's a landlocked country. Mugabe is a hero to most Africans, and if we decided to invade, no neighbouring country would grant overflying rights, which is probably true. And they don't shout, they don't hero worship him as much as they did, but you are correct that many, many Africans think Mugabe is a hero, and he's a hero because he kicked the arse of the white man. And the white man has been such a dominant force in Africa for centuries that someone who comes along and says, right, we've had enough of you. I mean, when Mugabe, I think I said this when we were discussing it in more detail yesterday, when Mugabe announced that he was taking the farms off the white farmers, the landowners, who frankly, there's no other way of describing this, who frankly had stolen land, just like all the whites in America stole the land, all the whites in Australia stole the land. They may have stolen it from someone, from not a particular individual, because there was no assigned ownership. But the idea of conveyancing and the like didn't really exist until man invented it. So it is a little bit weird. You know, the United States or the land of the North Americas wasn't owned by anybody until someone decided to own it. But you're just stealing it from nobody, whilst at the same time stealing it from what you might call Aboriginal peoples, the indigenous population, although they didn't have any documentary evidence of ownership. So it was stolen. But when Mugabe said in Zimbabwe, right, the white farmers, we've had enough, we've asked them to go and they've not gone, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take the land off them and we're going to give it to Africans. That, as far as I could see, apart from being somewhat discourteous, was on the face of it a sensible thing to do. Now, he could have done it better. He could have done it and not given the farms to his cronies. I mean, what you have in Zimbabwe at the moment is an abomination. It's worse than it was previously. Previously, you had white farmers who believed they owned the land, and they employed black people to work the land, pretty horrible wages, and some of them were treated abysmally. Others were treated like members of the family. That's the nature of humanity. We do all deal with those around us in different ways. But to take the land off those white farmers and hand it to your cronies, who have no interest in farming, only in owning, and they continue to live in the capital and become absentee landlords, well, frankly, that made it worse, which is why Rhodesia, whatever you want to call it, Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, well, where previously it had been what could be described as the breadbasket of Africa, is now got starvation. It's got the most fertile land in Africa, and the people are starving. It's ludicrous. Had he, and I said this yesterday, had he instead said, right, we're taking the land off you white farmers because you stole it off the indigenous population originally, and we're going to give it to the families and the people who've been working that land as your employees, that would have been fantastic. That would have been utterly fantastic. And it would have been very, very difficult for the Western leaders to say that was wrong. Very difficult. I don't see how they could have done it. The way it's been done in South Africa is slightly different in that the chains, if you like, the shackles, the restrictions on ownership of property by black people has been removed. A black government has been elected. Now, when it was Nelson Mandela, it was all hokey-dory because everybody loves him. This guy, Mbeki, ain't quite the same, and he's should we say, he's nearer to Mugabe than he is to the Archangel Gabriel, should we say. But that's all. And he's working through a process, and the land is being transferred, not en masse, but is being transferred slowly to the indigenous population. And slow change is probably quite just about fast enough to keep the indigenous population happy, but not fast enough to upset the apple cart, I suppose, is what's going on. But the way that Mugabe decided to do it, well, frankly, it's absolutely unacceptable because it's a complete and utter disaster. But that's because the man is a nasty clown. Have you seen the state of modern roads? The suspension is rather useful on a mountain bike. Well, yes, it is, Paul. Of course it is, and the suspension is absolutely marvellous if you happen to be of the bony-bottomed kind. But it's the tyres I'm on about. You need to change. You need to change the tyres. That's what you need. Such is life. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, well, there's still time if you really want to. I hesitate to tell you this so late, but I didn't want to tell you early on because you'd have just blamed me and you'd have shouted at me. And I'd like to say that it is definitely not my fault, and before the BBC comes up with a policy and gags us all, I can say it with alacrity and impunity. But I know both of them. Put it on the board. Anyway, listen to this. Now, listen till the end. I don't want you giving your snotty comments until I've got to the end. The days of listening to a traditional transistor radio could be nearing an end. It emerged yesterday. All mainstream... Now, wait for it! Wait for it! Wait for the date. The date's important. It's not going to happen tomorrow, or even the day after. It's not going to happen for ages and ages and ages and ages. And I wouldn't mind putting £5 on it never happening at all. But that's just wishful thinking. All mainstream radio stations should be transferred to digital, an industry body has recommended. That's all. It's just a recommendation. It's not going to happen yet. It's just a recommendation. That Andy Burnham's in favour, but what does he know? Exactly. He's just a minister. They don't know anything. The industry body wants all national, regional and big local radio stations to start moving to digital in 2015. Now, that's not 8:15 tonight. That's the year 2015. Quarter of you lot will be dead. So you can stop worrying there, right? I'm not feeling so good. So a quarter of you will be dead. The other 3/4, well, a quarter of you will be deaf as post. You won't be able to listen anyway. Working towards it. So that's it. By 2015. It's ages off. Ages. It wants all of them to do it. FM would continue, but it'd only be used by small stations, community stations and all that. It means that old and vulnerable people don't have to buy new sets, you see, because they can carry on. So all the ones, the quarter that are going to be dead by then, and the other lot, they're going to be a Mutt and Jeff by then, you'll be all right. As you go, so will FM. So you're the barrier. You're it. Yeah, the Wrinklies. We're going to pile them all up and make it into a big aerial. You'll be all right, don't worry. But this means old and vulnerable people don't have to buy new sets, but they would lose stations such as Radio 2 and BBC Radio 4. Well, it's no bloody loss, is it? You can live without them. You've got us. We can do all of that. Singing, dancing, we can do that. See? I can even dance in tune. Did you hear it? Digital radio offers more choice of stations and is claimed to have a better sound quality. Now that's where the trouble starts. I know! It's crap! I know it's crap! I've got one at home. You've got to bang it on the wall, put it in the oven and have a bath with it before it'll bloody work. They're crap! Digital radio, it's a fallacy. They're bloody rubbish! Some are okay, but bloody hell, they're rubbish. FM, I used to like Radio Luxembourg. At least that was still there when it wasn't. You had a sort of... Digital radio, switch it on. Nothing. What happened? Nothing. What's going on? Nothing. Well, come 2015, we'll all be doing that. See you tomorrow. Ta-da now.
She's a writer and broadcaster who probably knows more about your sex life than you do.